Welcome to the channel and welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. Manchester United are now in talks with Brentford for Bryan Mbeumo. Bruno is staying, Sancho returning, Hojlund, Onana, Mainoo exit news. Amorim is targeting more signings after a meeting with the board. A shock exit talk for Lisandro Martinez. Loads to go through in a packed video. I'm Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's jump straight into it. So what a window it's been so far. Cunha announced on pretty much on the first day of the transfer window opening. Second day, Bryan Mbeumo decides to join or pick Manchester United out of all the potential suitors there. Day 3, Bruno Fernandes decides to stay and turn down an offer from Saudi. We're going to run through his comments in a second. What on earth is going on? What's going to behold us today? Who is this football club? Efficiency, speed. But again, there's been loads of reports coming out around meetings with Amorim, the board, all this stuff, which we're going to go through today. But let's kick off with the latest on Bryan Mbeumo, who seems to be the next target or potentially the next signing that we're going to be making this window, which still feels insane to me to say. But let's go through the latest there. So Bruno Fernandes' rejection of Al Hilal does not have any bearing on an expected bid for Bryan Mbeumo. That came from Ben Jacobs. The rhetoric is, we've got the money to go for Mbeumo, regardless of the Bruno Fernandes kind of money. But the reports were, if you remember, bought the video the other day saying that United do have around £100 to £25 million as their budget. Obviously, Cunha is part of that, and then Mbeumo will be part of that. Anything beyond that, though, we are going to have to generate money through player sales, and there's a lot of exit and talk that I'm going to go through at the end of the video as well of how we're potentially going to then fund the rest of the transfer window. But a good that, Ben Jacobs saying that Bruno staying has absolutely zero impact on it. Steve Ralston from the Manchester Evening News was saying that formal contact between United and Brentford for Bryan Mbeumo could begin imminently. That was yesterday. Brentford sources say they see Bryan Mbeumo in the same bracket as Matheus Cunha, hence why they are demanding at least £60 million. iSport paper was saying the similar thing, that Manchester United will need to match the £62.5 million they spent on Matheus Cunha if they are to strike a swift deal for Brentford's Bryan Mbeumo. Man United warned Mbeumo saga could drag on all summer unless they pay the £62.5 million. So obviously that's Brentford's negotiation angle to say, well, you paid this for Matheus Cunha. We think that they're similar players, so therefore we want the same kind of price. Otherwise, they're saying that they're prepared to wait for that kind of fee as well. So we'll need to see what United do there. Luke Edwards from The Telegraph was saying that after scouting, Newcastle agreed that Cunha and Mbeumo are the type of players they need to attract, but both appear to be on their way to Manchester United. So there is a lot of rhetoric going around. A lot of media journalists and everyone of that are a little bit butthurt that United are acting like a football club again and buying some of the best players in the Premier League when all the kind of gaslighting we've been told that we don't have any money and all this kind of stuff was clearly obviously nonsense, because we're just about to go out and spend £120 million potentially on two of the best players outside of the top kind of clubs that are available in the Premier League as well, which is insane. So obviously all that kind of, I don't know how they've done it. It's not our job as fans to understand how United are funding these sort of deals, or that's the people at the club that they're paid a lot of money to kind of do that as well. I'm just excited that we're signing two top quality players. And then hopefully more as well. But again, there's quite a lot of exciting news going out regarding transfers, which we'll run through as well. Brentford have been less than impressed of how this pursuit is played out publicly, and we are still some way off an agreement being struck between the two clubs. United know that personal terms will not be an issue with Mbeumo, and so it is down to the agreement United can reach with Brentford, who want in excess of £60 million. Nonetheless, Amorim wants players in pronto so they can get to work as part of his summer rebuild. And with Mbeumo keen, expect this one to get over the line. So Nave was doing a Q&A yesterday. It's a good source as well. Saying that they expect this one to go over the line and that Amorim wants players in as soon as possible. We'll go through what's been kind of suggested that they've had in a board meeting in a bit as well. And then the latest regarding Mbeumo is that Manchester United are now in talks with Brentford over Bryan Mbeumo. £50 million plus is required, as Mbeumo has a 1-year option Brentford can trigger alongside the 12 months left on his current deal, meaning they don't feel under pressure to sell. Brentford currently using Cunha fee as a valuation yardstick, but United believe a lower fee is possible, especially with Mbeumo keen on the move. So the latest there is that United have now started talks with Brentford. Obviously, we don't know how long these negotiations are going to take. By all accounts, United are very keen and moving very quick to try and get deals done for Ruben Amorim ahead of the pre-season. If you remember Ruben Amorim's comments, where he's always been saying that this is the window to kind of go out and act because there's no World Cup or no international, and he wants to use this window as the kind of yardstick for future kind of transfer windows or future, because we're going to have, this is the opportunity to have a full pre-season without any kind of breaks or without any interruptions, and Amorim wants to use that to his advantage. And by all accounts, it looks like the club are actually kind of making moves and doing things to kind of support the manager and acting really, really quick. So let's see how long it takes us to negotiate the fee and price and everything like that for Mbeumo, because obviously Brentford are going to want top dollar for their player as well, and they're not going to necessarily just lay down and let us walk all over them. But the fact United are moving swift on this deal is super surprising for me. Like, how many times have we signed a player in the transfer window and then there's nothing for like 2 weeks and then we make a move for another player? This has literally been, 2 days since we announced Cunha officially done, and now we're in negotiations with Mbeumo. Super impressive. And you've got to remember, this is the first kind of real transfer window under the new regime with Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, Christopher Vivell, because last summer they weren't really all in place until late in the transfer window. And then with Dan Ashworth was here, and obviously Ten Hag was here as well. But one of the benefits of Ruben Amorim coming in early is the planning and preparation for the transfer window. And it's about following through with that plan, and at least they're kind of making moves. Who knows how they're funding it? Because like I said, we've been gaslit to believe that United are broke and we're a finished club and all of this stuff, and yet we're about to go out and spend, effectively £120 million on two of the best players in the Premier League outside of the big clubs that are available. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? But again, not my job as a fan to understand that. I'm just excited for the transfer deals. That's Jim Ratcliffe and everyone like that to work out the finances and stuff. And if they've, worked out a way to kind of do it, fair play to them. Now, one of the ways mentioned in the report there of us funding it is not through selling Bruno Fernandes, because obviously he's staying. He actually did a press conference yesterday for the Portugal national team, where he kind of clarified the situation, which I found really interesting. So he said there was an opportunity with Al Hilal. The president called me and asked if I wanted to go. They were waiting for me to answer. I spoke to the coach. He asked me not to go. Manchester United didn't want to sell me, and they don't need the money. But if I had wanted to leave, they would have made it happen. So that's really interesting from Bruno Fernandes, effectively saying it was his decision. If he wanted to go, United would have been prepared to sell him, but they said that they wanted to keep him because they don't need the money, because they're going to look to fund the transfer window somewhere else as well, which is really interesting, because if United are refusing, £100+ million of what it would be for Bruno Fernandes, and we're in the position that we are, when we know we need to strengthen, we know we need a rebuild and stuff, they must have something up their sleeves, whether it's other shock sales, which we'll go through in a bit in this video around potentially one of the ways they could be funding the transfer window. But it is what it is. What let me know what you think about that. Do you think that's really kind of interesting, I felt, from Bruno. Amorim wanted to keep him, United wanted to keep him. It's clearly down to him. If he wanted to go, United would have sold him, and obviously would have got the best price. But ultimately, we are looking like we're going to be okay without having to sell Bruno. But give us your shouts and your thoughts on that in the comments below. It'll be interesting to read those. And then Rob Dawson said a similar thing as well, that Ruben Amorim made it clear to Bruno Fernandes, both publicly and privately, that he wanted him to be central to his rebuild at United. Now, I have an issue with that, because I do not think we shouldn't have a rebuild around one player anymore. That's where we've gone wrong with Bruno, because we're so reliant on him to do everything that when he doesn't do everything, the rest of the team crumbles, because we don't have other match winners. We don't have other players in the squad that can take the game by the scruff of the neck. And, and that's one of the issues that I have. So I just hope that with the rebuild, we are not doing it around Bruno. Bruno should be a part of that team, but we shouldn't be solely reliant on him, because that's where we keep going wrong. Because if Bruno has a bad game, look at it with the end of the season, we were all kind of hoping for the final, for example, that Bruno turns up And then when he doesn't, the rest of the team doesn't perform. We can't have that as a football club. You should have, other players within your team that can turn up and can win games and do magical things on the pitch as well, other than just Bruno Fernandes. So I'd have an issue with us rebuilding around Bruno. Bruno should be part of the team, but the team should be, the team's more important than just Bruno Fernandes, in my opinion. But yeah, so I'd have a worry about doing that. But look at the signings we're about to make, and Mbeumo, Cunha, they're both match winners as well. So it doesn't look like we are building around Bruno. I think Bruno's going to be a part of the kind of team, which is fair enough. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Let's move on to some other news. So during Manchester United's executive committee meeting after the Europa League final, Amorim told the board be more ambitious and go for better players. And at that same time, they contacted Gyökeres and Mbeumo. He's put a lot of pressure on them. So the Muppeteers were saying that after the Europa League final, and Amorim did say it himself, we need to be ambitious. We need to kind of, everyone's too comfortable at United. He said these sort of things before. But apparently he's told it to the board as well to be more ambitious. And at that same time, they contacted Mbeumo. Obviously, we know Mbeumo's going to be potentially signing or in negotiations as at the time of you're watching this video with Brentford regarding Mbeumo. But interestingly, Victor Gyökeres as well. And that is a name that's not kind of dying down. Still links with Gyökeres. Where we're going to find the funds for that, I don't know. That's going to rely on sales, because I think we've got the budget available to get Mbeumo and Cunha, because we're pushing for them. We had the money for Delap as well, if you remember, because we would have bought Delap and he decided to come to us and not Chelsea. So there is money there in the budget to go and get some players, but not the full rebuild that we need. So the rest is going to be reliant on kind of exits and sales, which again we'll run through a bit of around the exit news in a second. But that's really interesting that Gyökeres' name just keeps cropping up, keeps coming up. And there's never any smoke without fire when it comes to signings. Now, Laurie Whitwell in his piece yesterday, I did cover a bit of this in yesterday's video, but there was so much other news to go through, so just wanted to kind of bring you what Laurie Whitwell was saying. So he said that United have already announced the signing of Wolves forward Matheus Cunha, who is expected to operate as one of the two tens behind the striker. Bringing in a new centre forward is also on the agenda after missing out on Ipswich's Liam Delap to Chelsea, with a move for Bryan Mbeumo in the offing. And then Laurie Whitwell also said that Amorim is also believed to want an athletic number 8 type midfielder. And strengthening the wing-back area is on the agenda too. A new goalkeeper could come into the reckoning should Andre Onana depart, but the indications at this stage are that position is lower down the list. So that's really interesting from Laurie Whitwell, because the reports around wing-backs gone a little bit quiet. Obviously, we were linked with Giovanni Kenda, who was believed to be coming in for the right wing-back position, but he's gone to Chelsea. We're not really linked with that many players for the wing-back position as well. But interesting, I felt a new number 8 type midfielder who wants an athletic 8 type midfielder. And the reason I found that interesting is because Bruno, where does he fit in the team now if we're getting Cunha and Mbeumo for the 10s? That's where they're believed to be playing. So Bruno, for me, becomes the 8. And if we're looking for another 8 type midfielder that's athletic, are we looking for another partner for Bruno? Like it's really weird for me, because Bruno's staying, but I think Bruno's now going to play in the midfield as the 8, because I can't see him. You don't spend £120 million on Mbeumo and Cunha for the 10 positions and then one of them on the bench. I mean, you could do, but it doesn't make much sense for me personally looking at it. So Bruno becomes the 8, but then we want another 8 athletic type midfielder as well. So that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. There's no real links with midfielders at the moment. Edison's one that keeps getting thrown around, but there's an update on him that potentially he might be going to the Saudi Pro League or as interest, because the report was if Bruno doesn't go to Saudi, they were going to be looking at Edison as one of their alternatives as well. So what an absolute mess. We're just going to have to see how it all plays out. But I felt that was really interesting from Laurie Whitwell. Nave Salt from the Daily Mail, who's a good source as well, said the same thing, that Manchester United still want a striker, a physical midfielder, reinforcements in goal, and open to adding another centre-back. It will require them to make significant money back through sales. So again, similar kind of things where potentially we'll be looking at once we strengthen the attack, because we know a striker is a priority as well. Midfield, Laurie Whitwell saying goalkeeper, defender. So insane. Like if we get, I don't know how we're going to fund it. I don't know how we're going to do all of this or who's going to be linked, but it's going to be exciting. So, but yeah, going to be interesting to see how they kind of do with that. Now, Naifso also said that Matheus Cunha has joined from Wolves and talks are ongoing for Bryan Mbeumo from Brentford, but United also want to add a striker and assessing a number of targets. Rashford, Sancho and Antony are all looking to leave and could be followed by Garnacho, Mainu, Hojlund and Onana to help generate funds. Now, Mainu's name keeps coming up with a potential exit as well. That is one way. Homegrown profit would probably command a big transfer fee with his. I don't like the idea of selling Mainu. I've come to terms with anyone else on that list. Rashford, Sancho, Antony. Yep, don't really, not bothered. In fact, they are players that we definitely should be looking to remove. Garnacho I've come to terms with because he's been linked with the leaving since January. So I've kind of come to terms with Garnacho leaving. Hojlund, I agree with. Onana, definitely agree with as well. Mainu's the one that I just feel really uncomfortable about because I think there's a player there, and I think writing him off too early could be one that comes back to bite us in the ass. And if we can't, surely we can find, even if it's just another year of development for Mainu, a way to kind of get him into the team as well, because I do think he's a really, really good player as well. But that could be one of the ways that we're looking to fund this transfer window, is by removing players. We need a sell to buy, and not just the transfer fees that we would get for those players, it's also the wages off of the book as well. There's a significant chunk of wages, especially with the top three, Rashford, Sancho and Antony as well. And it gets their monetization off the books as well, which does kind of help. But again, we need to kind of keep an eye on it, see what kind of happens. But I think it's going to be a big one. Now, Naifso also said that Amorim has wanted a reunion with Victor Gyökeres from the start, but that is not the easiest deal to reach an agreement on, with Arsenal also strongly interested. So we know the rumours are Arsenal want either Gyökeres or Sesko. Apparently they're pushing hard for Sesko. And then, we need to find the funds, I think, to get Victor Gyökeres. Atletico might be interested in him. There's reports Juventus as well. So, yeah, we need to kind of keep an eye on it. But we do need a striker, that's for sure. Now, what are the other names that has been linked? Again, Naif Solt said that Manchester United have been offered Gonzalo Ramos by intermediaries, and that is one to watch in the striker market. So as the striker market develops further in the coming weeks, so another links with Ramos. Let me know what you think about that one in the comments below. And they've in his Q&A also said that Jean-Philippe Mateta has been on United's radar for some times, but he is leaning towards staying at Palace to help them in their first ever European campaign. I would like Mateta, I think, getting 3 Premier League proven players. So I mentioned in the comments yesterday, it was a great shout. The physicality increase from going from Hojlund to Mateta, Cunha and Mbeumo to the kind of that physical kind of output would be massive for us as well. Definitely increase our physicality, and that's something that we know we definitely need as well. But we need to keep an eye on that. It's going to be interesting to see who they do for strikers. I mentioned this before, so Alfredo Padula is saying that Al Hilal have opened talks with Edison's entourage. Manchester United remain interested in the Brazilian after seeing a €50 million bid rejected last summer. So the reports were that if Bruno doesn't go to Al Hilal, that Edison would be one of their alternative targets that they would kind of turn to. So, again, it's one of these where Bruno staying has a knock-on effect on potentially other targets as well, like Edison, because other clubs might be looking for him as well. But yeah, we need to see how that one kind of goes. Let's go through the exit news. So Jadon Sancho leaving Chelsea when contract ends June the 30th after agreement could not be reached over personal terms. For loan to turn permanent, Chelsea will pay £5 million penalty to United, €25 to explore options in England and Europe. The next move. So while it's been a little bit exciting so far, the transfer window, I think, for United, there's been a bit of a kick between the legs that Jadon Sancho is not staying at Chelsea. The reports are, and we'll go through the kind of updates, is that he couldn't agree personal terms with them. He didn't want to take a pay cut. And therefore, Chelsea have decided to pay the £5 million penalty. He's going to come back to United. But don't panic, though, because Romano said that Jadon Sancho is not expected to stay at Manchester United this summer. His camp will assess options in the coming days. So Romano has said that regardless, he is not coming back to the United first team. There is no way back for Jadon Sancho at United. It's just, can we find a buyer? Because if he's refusing to take a pay cut at Chelsea and had an opportunity to go to a team that's in the Champions League, and are kind of doing all right with their rebuild and stuff, if he's refusing to take a pay cut to go there, what on earth is kind of going through Jadon Sancho's mind? If it's all about the money, then fair play. We gave him the contract, but it just shows a massive lack of ambition, in my opinion. Sky was saying several clubs in the Premier League in Europe have approached Sancho's representatives to understand the conditions of a deal. Well, yeah, it's going to be was going to be 200 grand a week, I think, and I can't see any other. Like if Chelsea are refusing to pay that, and you see many other Premier League teams wanting to pay that as well. So. But Ben Jacobs said that one place that could potentially pay him the wages is Saudi. So there is interest in Jadon Sancho from the Saudi Pro League as well. So hopefully, if he's wanting the money and wanting the wages, then, the Saudi Pro League is a good option for him to potentially go as well. Plus, if we've got the £5 million payback, we only need to sell 20, which is what we would have got from Chelsea for Sancho anyway, 25 million. So, does that kind of give us a little bit of power, but it's really annoying. And this is Fabrizio Romano saying that Man United have no intention of giving Jadon Sancho another chance, along with Marcus Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho. Expect to sell him to raise more funds for summer transfers. So, Romano saying we have there's no chance of Sancho coming back. We're going to look to sell him somewhere else, along with Rashford and Garnacho as well. So that's one of the ways we could be obviously getting the money in to help us with the kind of rebuild or bring players in this summer as well. But that's really annoying. I can't be done with another summer of Sancho saga. I just hope there's something kind of lined up. There's reports of interest in Italy, Saudi Pro League as well, but we'll just need to kind of wait and see. Maybe if he is after the money, the Saudi Pro League might not be a bad place for him to kind of go and enjoy life over there as well. Enjoy your gaming or whatever it is you're kind of doing in your spare time. But yeah, we need to keep an eye on Sancho. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now, this was really interesting regarding exit. So Lisandro Martinez has no desire to join Napoli despite links. Martinez is recovering from a cruciate ligament injury and is on course to return for pre-season training with hope of making a first-team comeback in September. So that's really good news that Martinez might be back. Forget about Lisandro Martinez because I think the young centre-halves like Aiden Heaven looks quality. Lenny Yoro looks quality as well. So we've got some, and I thought Fredrickson looks really good as a player coming through the youth team as well. So, but Lisandro Martinez, he's the warrior. He's the kind of, he's so influential with us building out from the back as well. And look at the goal for Man City, the pass he laid on to Ahmad. That's what Martinez, that quality kind of brings on the ball as well as that as well. But yeah, there was a report coming out, I think it was from the Metro, saying that Napoli were interested in Martinez, but Nave Salt's a good source, so I would kind of trust that as well. But again, he'll be back for pre-season, making his comeback soon, which will be good. Now let's go through the rest of the exit news because there's more. So Rasmus Hojlund is a concrete target for Inter Milan. Manchester United are open to top offers with contacts already taking place over a potential move. So now that came from Florian Plettenberg. Florian Plettenberg, though, not the best source of information outside of Germany, in my opinion. But again, it's another link with Rasmus Hojlund and Inter Milan. That story is not going anywhere as well, so we need to see how that kind of plays out. Interestingly, though, the Muppeteers were saying the club have been very clear to Rasmus Hojlund, if there's a good offer on the table, he needs to take it and leave. Now, that's brutal, but probably, that's how we need to be as a club. For far too long, we've mummy-cuddled players and just kept them at the club because, we wouldn't want to sell them because they were seen as assets on the book against the debt and all of this kind of stuff. So the fact that United are now saying, if we get an offer, you have to take it and leave and jog on, I like that kind of approach because we do need to be brutal with exits because there are far too many players at United that have outstayed their welcome. And I'm not saying Rasmus is one of those. He's only been here for 2 years, but we need to start getting ruthless with players and getting them out of the club that if they're not part of the plans. So, again, we need to see how that one kind of plays out because the reports are Hojlund would like to stay, but if he's been told to leave, we'll have to wait and see what kind of happens with that one. Now, Ty Marshall from the Manchester Evening News was saying that Inter Milan are considering making a move for Rasmus Hojlund this summer, with Ruben Amorim keen to add attacking reinforcements this summer. Hojlund and Joshua Zirkzee could depart to make room in the squad and free up vital funds. I think it's a bit too soon with Zirkzee, but when you think about it realistically, is he a number 9? Or does he play as a 10? We're about to sign 2 10s, and you've got Bruno and Mount and Ahmad that can still play there as well. Personally, I think Joshua Zirkzee You know, if you play him up front with, yes, he's not an out-and-out number 9, but I think his link-up play with Mbeumo and Cunha could be really, really exciting to see, and would want to keep him around and give him at least another chance and another season, because we missed him when he was injured. But if he's not part of the squad, or not part of Amorim's plan, and not part of the, you know, the rebuild, and he doesn't see him as a 10 and he wants a 9, could be something in that as well. Maybe Amorim has kind of said, look, I can't fit you in the squad unless you play as a 10, but you don't have the attributes that I want as a 10. You know, what do we do as Xerxes? I would personally keep him for at least one more year. But I'm not the manager of Manchester United. Ruben Amorim is. Now, player we mentioned before, Simon Jones was saying Andre Onana is also expected to leave this summer. No real kind of links, though. And again, it's going to be one with Onana. Wages and salary, because he's still got quite a lot on his book value as well. So we need to see how that is. It's believed if Onana does go, that's when we're going to get a go. It's a buy to sell position, definitely the goalkeeper. But we need to keep an eye on what kind of happens, because there were reports before that he's been told to leave as well by Ruben Amorim at the same time when the Garnacho news, and then obviously he didn't play on the kind of postseason tour as well, or the last game of the season. So, you know, there might be something in that. So we need to keep an eye on how that develops. And then the other player we've mentioned about selling is Antony. So Juventus are interested in Antony. Initial contacts have been made with the player. That came from Italian journalist. And then Real Betis will travel to England next week to negotiate a new loan for Antony. Betis plan to add performance-based clauses for an option or obligation to buy. So Real Betis just think you need to pay up. And that's it, pay up or move on to somebody else as well. But yeah, we need to kind of see how that develops as well. But really exciting stuff, a lot of movements, a lot of kind of noise as well. I'll bring you any more updates as they come out, but I would absolutely love your thoughts on everything discussed in today's video. So get involved in the comments, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed. So and smash a like on the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.